Okay, we left off on page Kuf Lamed Ches, Perek Shloshim B'Shiva, 37th chapter, first column, second left bottom paragraph. And this day will be a day of remembrance, and you will celebrate it. Although we actually left Egypt, it was that one day. But yet, we celebrated for 7 days. Now, why do we celebrate for 7 days? The beginning of the Exodus was on the first day, on the 15th. But what was the ultimate objective of leaving? It's when it was on the 7th day. What happened the 7th day? We crossed the sea. The sea split. The Yamsuf, She'over Hayom B'Yom Shvi, was Nigalu Min HaMitzrayim Kasher Over Hayom. The 4 expressions of Gula, redemption. Go'alti. What is Go'alti? If a person has a master, although the slave flees, as long as the master is still alive, mentally, emotionally, the slave is not free. It's only once the master is destroyed, then he's truly free. So when were the Egyptians destroyed? They were destroyed in the sea. So therefore, that's V'go'alti. So the Geula is what is really, it was the 7th day. So the Hascholas HaGula, the beginning of the redemption, started on the 15th, when we left. What drew them after us? They believe we fled. We drew them into the sea, and then they were destroyed. So therefore, the culmination of Gula happened on the 7th day. So therefore, it's Chagosem, we celebrated from the first day through the 7th day. It's the whole involvement of Gula. So therefore, we celebrated for Hashem. It's a 7-day celebration. But the mitzvah of matzah is only the night of the 15th, right? The night that we eat the Korban Pesach, Paschal lamb. Ela shalechol chometz. The prohibition is not to eat chometz for the 7-day period, but the obligation of matzah is only the first night. Ki me'achshav matzah mora la cherus. Matzah indicates cherus. That's freedom. Therefore, when did we were still in Egypt. When we ate matzah, we were still in Egypt. But what was happening when we were eating the matzah? Right? That was the night we had the blood on the lintel and the doorposts where Hashem destroyed the firstborn of the Egyptians and all of the nations that were there. But the redemption, till we fully extricated ourselves from Egypt, from the bondage, shows over Yamsuf. That's only on the other side of the Yamsuf. We passed through the Yamsuf. That began on the 15th at night. Because when did we really make the break? When we were eating, we were consuming the deity of Egypt. We slaughtered it on the 14th. You'd say seemingly the break began, our termination and detachment of idolatry really started on the 14th. When you killed it, right? We slaughtered the Korban Pesach, the lamb, the sheep, on the what? On the 14th. But yet he says the Gula started at night. Why did it start at night? We eat it in a reclining position. So the actual redemption, the demonstration of freedom is the eating of the Pesach. It's eating of the Paschal lamb. But chometz you're not permitted. The sof so yatomid yitzir lecherus ad yom hashvi, because it extended itself. Bein lachshas keim shenos atam lematz deishlo hispik betzekom betzekas avosenu l'hachmitz ashegolom. It says, why do we eat matzah? Because the dough had no time to rise to become leavened. right? When did that happen? That happened during the daytime, not at nighttime. We're already eating matzah from the previous night. So the reason why we eat is for a later, something that took place later. But if it didn't take place later, why do we eat matzah? Why is matzah a representation of cherus? If the freedom already is the time of the eating of the Paschal lamb. You understand? It says in the Pasuk, after they ate the Pesach, we left during the day, not at nighttime. So why do we eat the matzah at night if the reason for the matzah is only the next day? Because the dough had no time to become leavened. The question doesn't even begin. The Egyptians were rushing us out at night. Why? Because they were all dying. They believed it's even worse than they thought. They were hurrying and rushing us at night. However, we said, we're not leaving until the morning. As much as Hashem says, you leave in the morning, not at night. Rak biyom yotzu. We left during the daytime. Really, we were rushed out. If we would have left that night, the dough wouldn't have risen. It happened to be, we waited. But what happened during the day really should have happened at night. Because we were rushed. And that's the reason why during the day it didn't become leavened. Why did we leave at night? Because Hashem says you leave during the day. So the reason why it was unleavened has relevance to the nighttime. It's the rushing. We rushed out. We had no time. He says the night is unique and special regarding the miracles and the wonders that took place in Egypt. What was miraculous? The most special of the plagues, the 10 plagues, was Makas Bechoros. Because the only one who did that's Ani V'lo Maloch. God did it himself. God could only discern between the semen of the firstborn, which fertilizes the firstborn and not the firstborn. Who can make such a differentiation? Right? Only Hashem. Because even the same woman could have had multiple firstborn if they were fathered by multiple men. And Hashem made that discernment. It's only God could do it. So the ultimate ness, which took place at a moment, it was a day miracle, it was a night miracle. The night is what is designated for the ultimate miracle. When did the sea split? It says Lifnos Boker, right before dawn. Because the other plagues were day and night, right? They didn't take place during the daytime necessarily. But what caused the ultimate total destruction? Destroyed them, that they said, they chased us out. They rushed us out, so they were chasing us. Because what did they say? They said, Kulonu Mesim, we're all dying. Koshin Kris Yamsuf. Kris Yamsuf was the ultimate destruction. The Makas Bechoros, that was a blow, there was nothing comparable to at that moment. But what was the Kriyas Yamsuf, the sea closing? All the Egyptian armies. Their whole power, their strength was destroyed. It's like at that moment it never existed. What does night represent? Night is vacuum. Night is non-existence. So since the miracle which brought about total destruction, total devastation, negation, that's night. Makas Bechoros was night. Night is vacuum. It's non-existence. Kriyas Yamsuf was night because it brought about a total destruction. That there wasn't even a remnant of the Egyptian army. It's interesting. It says the Jews, they were concerned that maybe the Egyptians were not caught in the sea. And maybe they were going around the other side. So what did Hashem say? Hashem said, let the sea cast out the remains of all the Egyptians. When they saw the remains of the Egyptians on the seashore, That's when they said the Shira. That was the Oz Yoshir. So it comes out interesting. The ultimate destruction was death. You'd say, they go into the oblivion, you never see them again. But you know something, but in your mind, you never know. You know, they call it in modern terminology, closure. People today need closure, you know. You need many things. You need a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and you need medication. You need closure. So the Jews themselves, they really didn't have that degree of belief or faith. How's it possible? Hashem says, I'll show you firsthand. You see their remains. So that revealed that the sea destroyed them. That destroyed the power. But when did destruction take place? The remains coming up means nothing. That's remains. That was nighttime. Because nighttime represents vacuum, non-existence. They went into a state of non-existence at nighttime. That's Max Bechoros and it's interesting. We find that when we were pursued on the seventh day, which was Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, it says the cloud separated between the camp of Klal Yisrael and the camp of Egypt. What were they experiencing? Darkness. That was the seventh day of darkness. Darkness is 3 days and 3 days. Just dark, then it had like a thickness, but there was one day that had to be added. That was when the night darkness that separated to us, that they couldn't see where they were going. Fire would not illuminate the night for them. Since it's the Jews, it was light, they had darkness. So what was that? That was a precursor for what was going to happen. This is something you can't illuminate. You can't illuminate this. This darkness cannot be illuminated. A darkness that cannot be illuminated, what does that mean? It has no relevance to productivity. It has no relevance to existence. That was an indication how this is going to end. How did that end? It ended in the sea. Lifnos Boker. That's when the sea split, they went in, and then they were destroyed. But what the night by us, we illuminate the light. The night. What's illumination? Torah or. So what is the main obligation? Rambam says for a Jew to study Torah if he's able to choose between day and night. It says Iko lemidosu shel odom balaylo. But night is vacuum. It's vacuum. That's in the physical sense. In the spiritual sense, there's no such thing as vacuum. Because existence only exists to facilitate the spiritual. But night within the physical is vacuum. Within spiritual, there's no such thing as vacuum. It's like when we say on Yom Kippur, Sheni Yom Kippur, to God, darkness, God dwells in darkness, but the light is with him. Wherever God is, it's the light. Because God doesn't exist within anything. Existence is an expression of God's will. God dictates and wills existence. So night is what? A withdrawal. That's what we find. The Ramchal speaks about the nether forces. The nether forces, they associate with the night. Why did Hashem put them during that period of time? Man has to exist. Man has to be productive. If they would coexist with the human being, they would destroy the human being. We speak about mazikim, demons, all destructive forces. He set them at a period of time where man is not there. He's not creative. He's not functioning. He's in the security of his home. What's outside the home, that's what? That's destructive. Because that's vacuum has relevance to destructive forces. They're really synonymous. So now we have a question, and this is a question I asked. When did we slaughter the Pesach? On the 14th. It wasn't nighttime. But what does that represent? Slaughtering, that's destruction. We destroyed the deity, we rejected, we negated the deity of Egypt. But that was the 14th during the daytime. But when you slaughter the Korban Pesach before midday, it's not valid. It has to be after midday. What is after midday? That means the sun already is going in the direction to set. After midday has relevance to night. That's what he explains. Chen shchitas ha-Pesach acha chatzos. Shayom maschil la'arov. The day is beginning to go into the setting mode. So even the slaughtering of the Pesach also has relevance to the nighttime. I was just thinking, even though we say night is vacuum, and night is midas adin, is the attribute of justice for the same reason, but after midnight is midas arachmi. Right? Slichas. One says after midnight. You don't say slichas before. Because you don't supplicate Hashem for rachmim at a time of din. It's a time of justice. But after midnight, because midnight already, you're going towards morning, so therefore it has relevance to day. So let's talk. But it's dark. Dark is a representation of what? Of vacuum destruction, which we're saying this was the basis. That's why they were destroyed at nighttime. And that's why the sea split. And they went into the sea at nighttime. Lifno spoken before morning. It's true. But for them it was midas adin, but what was it for us? It was midas arachmi. For us it was the attribute of mercy. That our enemies were destroyed, that they no longer existed. So that was after midnight. Ulakachtem agudus ezov. You should take a bunch of hyssops, grass. And what do? You dip it in the blood, and you put it on the lintel and on the doorposts. Shetziva Kodesh Baruch Hu lo hiskir klal. Doesn't say Hashem commanded you. You should take. Hashem said you should take. He says Kodesh Baruch Hu lo hiskir klal. God never said. Never mentioned the hyssop. It says you have to have Pesach. You have to have matzah more. Has to be broiled. Doesn't mention it should not be cooked or partially broiled. Doesn't mention anything about the hyssop, dipping the hyssop in the blood. You should dip it. Now it says that each time you touched it it shouldn't be one dipping for all three, but each touching had to be a separate dipping. You should dip this hyssop into the blood that's in the receptacle. When it mentions before what you have to do regarding the paschim of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, doesn't mention this. Doesn't mention the hyssop, doesn't mention the dipping into this receptacle that has the blood. The reason why before it's emitted is for the same reason. He says there was a Masorah, there was a tradition that whenever you have to take something, taking always has to do with a bunch of something. It says agudas ezov. That whenever taking is aguda. Whenever we speak about you apply, it's not you have a puddle of blood. The blood is always contained within a receptacle. That's the tradition. So therefore it doesn't have to say it. Lekicha is always a bunch. Okay, we'll discuss this in a minute. Right? It says on the first day of Sukkot, V'lkachtem luchem b'yom harishon. Prei tzodo, kapas tamorim, anafei tzovos. They're the four species. You're not taking one thing. You take multiple things being held in your hand. So again, it's an aguda, it's a bunch. So he says, this is not unique and specific to Pesach. Now what do you need an aguda? If you're able to apply the dam with one hyssop, what do we have to have? A number of hyssops in a bunch, in a bundle? Taking is synonymous. When it says you should take it, it's synonymous with a bunch. You don't take one thing, you take a bunch of things. What does aguda mean? They're bound together. They're tied together, they're bound. Dafka al yidei agudas Esav ki Esav hu Esav koton mode. This hyssop is a very small, low-lying grass, very thin. Tichsiv mino erez asher b'levonon. We speak from the cedar in Lebanon. Aro Esav asher b'kir, to the ivy that grows on the wall. So what does Esav represent? The smallest, the most minute, the most insignificant. So take something that's insignificant to make it insignificant, semi-significant. One's not enough. You have to take a bunch and bind them together. Something which is so minuscule and so small has greater relevance to bundling than something that is an identity unto itself. You're applying something which has value. The blood has value. So you can apply it with something which barely exists. So to give that something which is minuscule, which nearly has no value, identity, to give it identity for this act which has value, it has to be something of value to be applied to something of value. Therefore, it has greater relevance to binding it than anything else. Now we understand. We rule halacha. We rule halacha contents. Let's say we have 4 species. We have the pomegranate, the lulav. We have hadassim, the myrtle, and we have the arava, the willow. There's an argument whether they have to be bound together or not. If you don't bind them, is it a valid mitzvah? Everybody agrees Esrog doesn't have to be bound together. But there's an argument whether if you don't bind them, is it considered the 4 species? One opinion is if you don't bind them, one does not fulfill the mitzvah. We rule that agad is hiddur mitzvah. It only enhances it. But if, let's say, a person doesn't have the band to bind together, you don't say the mitzvah. It's not done in the most elaborate way, but it's valid. Why? By the Ezo, it has to be bound together. Every one of these species have an identity. The palm branch has an identity. The myrtle has an identity. The willow has an identity. You should take it, we bind it together. You don't have to bind it. Lekachtem pri'itzodo, Kappas 21 said, you don't, over there, it doesn't have to be bound. It's called lekicha even if it's not bound. Because each species, independent of the other, has an innate value. The willow, the hyssop, it has no value. So how do you give it value? Only by binding it together. Okay? Uberchilto. What does Hashem say? When you put the blood on the lintel and doorpost, Hashem says, I will see the blood, and I will pass over your homes. My esadam, I will see the blood. It doesn't say I will see blood. Always indicates the blood, the special blood. Phenomenal. So normally you would say, what is the blood? Because this blood represents something which shows it's an expression of Mesiras Nefesh. They put their lives on the line. Because they killed the deity of Egypt, maybe. Okay? But where was the blood put? It was put on the inner doorpost. It wasn't on the outer. Put it on the outside and say, this may enrage the Egyptians. But this is the inside. So what does it mean? I will see the blood. What makes it so special? It did say because when they slaughtered it, the Egyptians knew. But the Egyptians did not witness. We have Shabbos HaGadol, as the Midrash says, they tied the sheep and the goats to the door, to the bedpost. The Egyptians came and said, what's this all about? This is what, 4 days we're slaughtering this. So it says they gritted their teeth and they walked out. That's the miracle of Shabbos HaGadol. Okay? That's what we do. So he says, so the Mechilta says, when I see that blood, you know what it will remind me of? Domash al-Akedis Yitzchok. The blood of the Akedis Yitzchok. So that's the blood. The blood that God will see is not this blood. This blood will cause them to see when you do everything correctly in the confines of your homes, then I will see that blood. What is their Akedah? The Akedah silences every level of prosecution. There's plenty to prosecute. Right? The angels, Elo of the Gevruras, Elo of the Gevruras. You know, they're as culpable as the Jews. So how do you silence something? How do you silence that prosecution? We're easy as Hadam. I will see the blood of the Akedah. You see Avram's, which was the most difficult of all the tests. When I see that, no one has what to say. Everything's silenced. This is tremendous. This is the Midas Adin on the most extreme level. The Egyptians are dying. At that moment, he will remember, Hashem will remember the blood, the Akedah, the binding. Through the sacrificing, the slaughtering, and the whole process of the Pesach, that will remind Hashem of the Akedah. He's not speaking over here about all the details in this over here of the Paschal Lamb. It speaks about the hyssop dipping in the blood, and that's it. Because he already spoke, he already told them what Pesach is. Slaughter the Pesach, dip it in the blood. What about everything else he said? You know, it has to be broiled. No, that's not repeated over here. That already he taught them. Which Pesach? The Pesach which already I taught you, which I already communicated to you. He didn't want they should trip up in this mitzvah. If the Jews, for any reason, they don't do this mitzvah, they're not going to be protected from plague. Because this is the most intense moment of Midas Adin, of the attribute of justice. They need this aspect. We need the Akedah. The only thing which can activate the merit of the Akedah is this. K'moshe Omar, Vora Hashem lingof, when Hashem is passing over to smite them, Fikoch Parshas Zos Hasori Chseiro. Therefore, it's like it's coming to reiterate. You have to do this. Do what we discussed. We only speak about what aspects which will be the basis to be saved. How to slaughter it, how to broil it, how to eat it, what. That's not the discussion now. Now it's discussion why it's important to do it. Because blood will remind Hashem of blood. The schus of the Akedah. To put the blood on the lintel and the doorpost, b'shvil zeh, you need solim. And the merit of that, they will be saved. You cannot go out of your homes. You have to stay in the confines of your homes. Take for yourselves the Pesach. Whether you own the lamb, whether you don't own the lamb. You join a group that has the lamb. Also, what person, I can't afford it. Rabbi, I can't afford it. You know something, it's a question of life and death. Somehow you come up with the money. Whatever it takes, you have to have a Korban Pesach. You can't blame me. I'm not blaming you. Yeah, it's not a question of blame, but if you want to live, the only way you're going to survive this is you need this chus. Without this chus, you're not going to survive. The intensity of prosecution. The ilus stam domim pshito. Say, what maybe it means you have to purchase. Of course you have to purchase. If you're going to consume it, that means you have to pay. No, what it means it's emphasizing regardless of cost. Other mitzvahs you don't have to give away all your money to do a positive commandment. Not to violate a negative commandment if you're being forced. They say you either eat non-kosher, we're taking everything you have. You have to give away everything, as long as it's not pikuach nefesh, as long as your life is not at stake. But to a mitzvah say, you're not obligated to give it all away. So why over here says, regardless, of course you must, because there's a life and death question here. Because the only way we could quell the prosecution, we need the schus of the Akedah. The Gemara tells of a story of Leal, who was the Nasi, and the elders. They were traveling on a boat on Sukkot, and they had no esrog. The corner of Gamliel esrog about Elif Zuz. He was a very wealthy man. He was the prince. Paid $1,000 for an esrog. Umay Rabusa. So what is it telling us? You have to do a mitzvah. You spend whatever you have to spend. He didn't have to spend that kind of money. Didn't have to spend. If a person has to spend whatever's needed to do even that mitzvah, you have to tell me, Rabbi Gamliel, of course, any Jew has to do that. The reason why the Gemara tells us of the cost, although he had no obligation, because of the enormous cost, he did it in either case. This is not a question, you do the mitzvah. This is a question of life and death. The negative, because if you don't, you may be smitten. It's interesting. There's Moshe Feinstein said, he writes in one of his responsa, this man didn't want to divorce his wife, for whatever reason. He's a bad person. But the woman was an aguna. So he says, if the father gives me, the father of the wife gives me $100,000 to divorce her. So he made a commitment, but he didn't exchange the money. He didn't pass the money to the husband. So he gave him the get, and Ramosha oversaw the get on the condition that he gives $100,000. And he gave his daughter the get. After the woman received the divorce, the husband says, "You know, so I'm not paying it. She has a get. Let him sit and wait." So Moshe writes, "You're playing games. This get was a conditional get. The paper has no value whatsoever unless you meet the condition. You paid the money, she's divorced. If you don't pay the money, she's a married woman. You can't play games here. It's a question. You want your daughter to be able to go on with her life, you have to pay the money. Now, but I have the paper. The paper has no value. Hashem says, we're dealing with life and death. But a mitzvah, I don't have to expend so. I don't have to, such an outlay, it's too much. You want to live? No problem. You live or die. This is what it takes. Regardless of the cost, you have to cover the cost. Person has to go to a hospital, otherwise he's going to die. The doctor says, you know something, I've been saving all my life. I should spend my life savings to live. So what else? Of course. What did you save for? You want to die? So die. You'll leave it for someone else. That's it. It's again, but people are what? Are not reasonable. Totally unreasonable. V'atem lo seitzu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, name of, you should not go out of your homes. Once the destroyer, the angel of death, is given permission to destroy, he doesn't differentiate between tzaddik and rasha. Because your record has to be so perfect, no one has such a perfect record. This is the most extreme level of the attribute of justice. Kachisu b'bavakamo perkakones. Alvabayis lekalamechash. So what about inside you stay in the confines of your home? Why only outside? If there's midas adin, why should we differentiate inside or outside? Because God says the angel of death cannot go into your homes. The angel of death can only take whose lives? The lives that God permits him to take. He says once Hashem gives permission to the destroyer to destroy, he doesn't differentiate. Now, this is a good question. We write, Aniv lo maloch, Aniv lo sarov, Aniv lo achir. It's I, no one else. There's no angel of death. So how do we reconcile? Is there an angel of death? Is there no angel of death? Famous question. Sof, Nitru Rishus Lahashkes Mishirtza. Doesn't make a difference. Factually, when God is killing the firstborn, it's a serious moment. Once there's Midas, that's Midas Hadin. People that always die. The angel of death takes people. Firstborn, not first. But now when he's going to take people, what kind of people does he take? Now he doesn't differentiate. We're not talking about the regular angel of death. Anival of Ma'aloch, that's regarding the firstborn. But in terms of dying, which people normally die, even the tzaddiks are going to die if you're outside. Now, I have a difficulty here. Chazal tell us it's difficult with just the literal reading. They said, Kulonu Mesim. They said, we're all dying. It's worse than we thought. So, the Medrash Hashem tells us, because the women, they committed adultery with many single women who never fathered children. So you could have one woman, she committed adultery with 10 different people and 10 children. Each one has another father. Each one is the firstborn of his father. But if we're saying that when the angel of death is given permission to take lives, he doesn't differentiate tzaddik and rasha, that means besides the firstborn, everybody is dying. So if everybody is dying, you don't have to tell me because the woman committed adultery with 10 men who never fathered children. Because in addition to that, many people are dying. So let's talk. So why don't they all die? Right? At time of the Babel, Noah was the only survivor in his family. Because Noah motza chen b'nei Hashem, b'nei Elokim. He found special favor. But there were other people who weren't as bad as the generation. But once Hashem allows the Midas Adin to be in force, doesn't differentiate between the nearly perfect and the one who's totally flawed. You have to be perfect beyond perfection, which doesn't exist. That's what I'm saying. So if the Mashchis, the angel of this, has permission to take lives, as Midas Adin, all Egypt should have died. One day die. Simple question. Now there's a question. A person who survived the Holocaust. Children died. Great tzaddikim died. Holy people died. Innocent people died. Why did they die? The answer is, it was Midas Adin. Of course, when the attribute of justice is unleashed, as perfect as you are, you're not perfect enough. That's why they all had to die. So the ones who survived, what, they were more perfect than the ones who were more perfect than they were? So why did they die? Why did they survive? The answer is this whole different concept. We speak about your record is not perfect enough. Let's say a person has a flawed record. But Hashem wants that person to live for some other reason. His existence is not based on his record. Because that person has a purpose in existence. Rosh V'Tovlo. You could be a person, that person can be in the middle of the Holocaust, he's not dying. Because God says this man has to live. He's living, and he's living high in the hog, not because of his record. Because he has to be a representation to confuse people. To say, there's no rhyme or reason. The man's evil. Why is he living with such affluence and such abundance? The answer is no rhyme or reason. Exactly. To create a state of confusion, this man lives. So people live for many other reasons. It's not based on their record. All Egypt, firstly, Egypt had to continue. So God didn't say Egypt, he's closing the chapter of Egypt. The nation had to continue. So there had to be people to continue. Which ones, which not, only God decided that. But outside of the ones who had to continue, the angel of death took them. You had to have an Egyptian army to pursue the Jews into the sea. So they definitely couldn't die the night of Makas Bechoros. Because the angel of death had free reign. Because the other ones who lived, it wasn't based on their record. We needed Egyptians for the Kiddush Hashem. We needed survivors to appreciate the Kiddush Hashem. As it says, V'yedu Mitzrayim Kini Hashem. So Chazal tell, after the sea closed on the Egyptians, Egypt will know I am God. Which Egypt? The Egyptians back in Egypt. When the armies are not coming back, then they're going to know who is the sole master. God. But if they all die, nobody knows anything. So therefore, each one has a purpose other than existing based on his record. That was a good question. Dim Tomar, Hametrim Shebol Botim Amashis, Lomu Mesim Af Osam Shenim Bechorim. We say God killed the firstborn in the houses of the Egyptians, even in the houses. That means the house did not insulate them from death. So that means the mashchis entered into the houses. So if it entered, it should have killed them all. Even the non-firstborn. The houses, let's say you had a family that didn't have any bechor. They still had to put up the blood on the lintel and the doorpost. So the mashchis should not enter. So which means if the angel would have entered, they would have died. So the Egyptian who didn't have that protection, they should have died. He says they all would have died. I mean, he's asking what I just asked. He's asking. Based on the Midas Adin, all Egypt should have died. Exactly what we're asking. The Makkah had something that was specifically identified with Bechorim. That's what's Makkah's Bechoros. Kach lo hi mashchisim ba'achirim, vo hi mashchisim b'zeh nimshochem achar Hashem yisborach lakos Bechorein. Va'bechor ha'poshut shnei minim heim. He's saying something phenomenal. He's saying something phenomenal. What's the firstborn among nations of the world? Firstborn means the firstborn is unique. So it's the firstborn, then you have the ones not the firstborn. Among Jews, Hashem says, who are the Jews? B'ni B'chori Yisrael. All Jews are B'chorim. So if all Jews are B'chorim, so the Midas Adin has realms to every Jew. So the Jew, if the Mashchis will go into the Jew's house, God, Chas v'Sholem, it's over. There's no Jewish people. But going to the Egyptian people, who's the Bechor? It's only one who's truly the Bechor. The ordinary Goy is not a Bechor. But every Jew is a Bechor. Because that's his pedigree. It's his status. Not because he's necessarily the firstborn. But the degree that Hashem values us, Hashem says, B'ni Bechor Yisrael, the Jewish people are my Bechor. Lakach lo yimashchisim la'achirim, v'yimashchisim b'zeh, Shochem achar Hashem yisborach lakos Bechoreim, v'abechor ha'poshet shnei minim. You have the firstborn and you have the ordinary person. It's two species. Al v'yisrael kulam heim Bechorim, el Hashem yisborach d'chsiv, b'ni Bechor Yisrael. The Jew is quantified as Bechor, even if he's not the Bechor. They're the Zokim, af she'eni Bechorim, therefore they would have been harmed, even if they weren't in reality the firstborn. Logor mi godel abai shu meisim, kol shenikra godel. This is according to one measure. It says even one who was the head of the household, even if he was the firstborn, he had the same status as for Yisrael Bechorim Gedolim. So every Jew has this status and this unique distinction. Now he's asking a good question. If that's the case, why does the Bechor have Kedusha? Because God sanctified the Bechoros, he should not be subject to Makkah's Bechoros. But if we're saying now that we're all Bechorim, so every Jew should have to be redeemed. Not only the one who opens the womb of his mother. According to his explanation. Phenomenal question. Like he led himself into this corner over here. Because there you're on equal standing. Even more so. He says, you see, which child do you redeem? The one who opens the womb. Even though it's the firstborn of his father, right? A man marries a woman who had children before. It's his first child from this woman. It's his Bechor. And he gets a double portion inheritance. But regarding Pidyon Haben, there's no Pidyon Haben. Because he's not the first one to open the womb of his mother. So you see clearly. So who died in Egypt? The Bechorim, the ones who opened the womb. We'll stop here.